If you live in the Netherlands, you're going to know this guy. If you don't, you will know. I mean, if you don't know him, you will know him by the end of this, hopefully. Richard from Fatal Flowers. Hi, Richard.
Hi.
Thanks for dropping in. Surprise, I might add. Richard sort of just dropped in out of the blue and said, hi, I'm here. So now I'm going to have to try and do this interview, aren't I?
Okay, well, let's have a try.
So tell me about your last record, Prince. No, that's the wrong person, is it? No, Richard.
Close. Yeah.
Richard, now Fatal Flowers.
Yeah.
They're from Holland. How long have you been doing the Fatal Flowers?
About 3 years, 3.5. So.
What sort of status have you reached in the Netherlands? You live off your music?
Sort of, yeah. Most of the time, anyway. When we're gigging, that is, which we do most of the year, really. So it's sort of, what status? I mean, there's not many bands around in Holland, so.
No, people take that for granted, like watching MTV and seeing all these people on videos, thinking they all, you know, elsewhere in the world you can live off of rock and roll and get quite rich. But in Holland and Belgium, places like that, it's difficult, isn't it?
It's bloody hard, yeah. You can't actually. It's very hard to live off your music in those countries because the record sales are so low that you really can't live off your royalties. You know, you have to live off your gigs. So what you really have to do is like play gigs like throughout the whole year. But then again, there's only a limited amount of places to play. So there you go. You know, it's,
how are the Dutch people towards Dutch music? I mean, because Holland is a place where most international artists start off selling records.
Yeah.
How are they to their own people?
Very critical, I'd say.
Are they?
Yeah. They like it in the beginning, but this, I think the moment you get a little bigger, they're probably the most sort of. It's a very hard audience because they're very hard to, because you know you get all those stars in Holland, you know, all over the world. Everybody comes to play in Holland, you know. So people are used to pretty high standards, I would say. It's hard to live up to them. We're trying. Yeah.
Of course. How many albums have you actually made, or how many singles have you put out?
Well, we started out with a sort of 12-inch mini album, which was done here in London by Greg Lee, and then next year we had an album out, which was done by Fig Mail, it's also English one. It's called Younger Days, and now we've just been to Woodstock in America, and we recorded a new album.
Actually in Woodstock?
Actually in Woodstock, yes.
Now, why? I mean, in these modern 80s, would you return to the whole hippie hunting ground?
No, even old hippie hunting grounds got, like, modern studios, you know.
There's nothing to do with the old hippie ideals?
No, not really. It's, we did this album with Mick Ronson, and that's where he lives, actually, so he knew the place, he knew the studio and everything, so it was quite handy for us to go over there instead of for him to come to Europe.
It's good to know that he's still around, actually. Mick Ronson, of course, in case you're too young to remember, David Bowie's ex-guitarist, and a lot of good solo albums. How is he? What's he like, Mick Ronson?
Oh, he's great. He's great to work with as well. He's sort of like a coach almost, you know what I mean? He sort of tries to bring out the best in the band. He's not like a producer who would say, oh, all right, go and stand over there, play your stuff and out again. He's really somebody who tries to stimulate you to come up with your own ideas as well. So it's really good fun to work with him. Right.
Good. Well, we'll talk more about that album. We're also going to show you a video from Fatal Flowers made by MTV recently, very recently, this morning actually. Well, not this morning, yesterday morning. Sorry, it's Sunday morning, isn't it? Keep forgetting where I am. Anyway, you'll see that a little bit later on. But first, Climby Fisher, this is me, and stay tuned because Richard from the Fatal Flowers is going to be around the rest of this hour. Don't go away. Anyway, thank you for joining us. With us in the studio at the moment, Richard, the lead singer and main guitarist from Fatal Flowers. Now, Richard, the obvious question is, who's Johnny D then?
Oh, he's just somebody I made up, really.
Somebody you made up?
Yeah, it's just a character. It's like maybe an old sort of rock and roll star, about around his 40s, I would say. Who's sort of being pushed into a comeback, but it's not really working out.
Oh, yes. So some stories going around like that all the time.
Yeah, sure.
Now, in that video, we saw you working with Mick Ronson. Is the new album... Who finances these things for you?
Well, the record company does, no.
If you say that you can't live off your royalties, and so there's not a lot of money pouring back into Fatal Flowers, are you going to be in massive debt to a record company then?
No, you never are. I mean, you're never in debt. I mean, they spend the money, and if it's, you know, if it's like a big hit, they make some money, and if it's not, they just lose it. But the band never loses money on records, I would say.
No, good.
Not that I know of. I mean, certainly we haven't got a deal like that.
No, good, good. How is it for you living in Holland? Have you found that your music goes across frontiers with difficulty, you know, into other countries?
To other countries, yeah, it's a bit hard because people are sort of more interested in maybe American and English bands, and then maybe Dutch or Belgian or German bands. But it's pretty hard for sort of continental band to get across borders. It's because first thing you have to do is like you have to concentrate on your home market, you know, which in case of like Danish bands and Belgian bands and Dutch bands, it's very small, it's very limited. So there you go. So it's because it's so limited, the money pouring into a band is also very limited, and you know, things with like making videos, it's like it really costs a lot of money, right?
Sure.
And I would say most Belgians or Danish or Dutch companies just don't have the money to do that, to really sort of promote the bands. Which is of course the only thing you can do with bands, really, to promote them outside your own country, is to sort of do it with clips and stuff.
It's strange that though, don't you think? Isn't it frustrating to be in a band and to see a lot of money, especially in Great Britain, there's a lot of money spent on bands that are not really worth it, you know, who make rubbish records. I mean, the most recent example, Transvision Vamp, had an enormous amount of money spent on them. They probably made one good record, and there's still loads of money being spent on them. Yet some of the songs that you've made are very strong songs, and they don't get the money spent on them.
Yeah.
Does that really make you angry?
Well, it's just a fact that that there is more and more money involved in pop music, because the promotional side of it all is so much more important than it ever was, and so the whole music thing is becoming more and more a product which you have to sell, and you sell things through like hits and videos and stuff like that. It's just a fact you have to live with, and like in England there's a lot more money involved, which is pretty obvious. And the only thing which is frustrating is that obviously in some cases it's very possible to get a hit single or promote a really shitty band because there's just a lot of money involved, you know, and it's not a very nice thing. But then again, like I said, it's one of those things you have to live with, right?
We all have our cross to bear. Yeah. But you didn't need any money to make this video, which I'm glad to say MTV has done for you. Going to see it now. It's the new